How to Restore a Castle, Part 1. A somewhat definitive and definitely partial restoration manual for owners of ruined historic buildings, particularly those on the west coast of Scotland, by Charles Dixon-Spain. In loving memory, Liam Calgie and Michael McHale. I dream of men who take the next step instead of worrying about the next 1,000 steps. Theodore Roosevelt. Admonition the first. Introductions are important. Welcome to How to Restore a Castle, or as it says in the subtitle, a somewhat partially definitive manual for the prospective owner of a ruined building, or even how we restored a castle and what you can learn from our successes, our failures, and our many and sometimes frankly unbelievable adventures. And as introductions are important, dear reader, I should say that as your primary interlocutor in this literary endeavour, I am Charles Dixon-Spain, and with my wife Sadie I own Dunans Castle in Argyll, Scotland, the restoration of which forms the basis for this book. We have lived at Dunans since 2003 and have been actively engaged in rescuing the castle since 2007, when we completed work on Dunans House and set up the Scottish Laird project. But more of the rescue proper in a bit. Scottish Laird itself has introduced over 400,000 lairds and ladies to the castle through the medium of our decorative title packages, sales of which have been responsible for all the progress we have made over the last decade or so. More of that in a bit too. For both Sadie and I, this community of interest has been a major source of comfort and motivation. It has helped us move things forward, giving us both a lift when the work seems to have hit obstacles, and then also confidence that once we have completed one task, or our task, there will be a massive and enthusiastic audience for the accommodation the castle offers when it opens. We cannot thank our lairds and ladies enough for their support. It has been and remains amazing. And in a way, it's the discussions with our lairds and ladies that have led to this book. Many of the admonitions, for this is a manual of admonitions, have arisen from seemingly innocent queries made by a laird or lady at the end of a tour. For example, what material will you use for the roof? Led to an 8-minute encomium on West Coast slate, lead versus copper versus zinc, double clouds, the closure of the Ballahoolish and Easdale quarries, the bureaucracy and underfunding of the local planning department, and Werther's butter candies. And no, that was not a product placement, but you'll need to refer to my admonition about roofing the house to understand fully what the sweets have to do with the recovery and reconditioning of second-hand slates. That said, for this first part of the book, you will note we have only a few tens of admonitions, and this, I will freely admit, is a result of my impatience. Frankly, the admonitions, have been hanging around in one form or another for so long I decided it was time to force myself into publishing some of them. The idea is that over the next year or 2 or 3 or 4, I'll publish further sets of admonitions as soon as they are polished enough. I anticipate 4 of these instalments, but even as I write this, the story is turning yet another corner, so it may end up being a much larger, longer, more labyrinthine project. A trilogy of 4-part manuals, anyone? Actually, no. That speaks to some never-ending castle refurb, and I do have to retire one day. I've made promises, if only to that guitar, which I'm too distracted to practice on at the moment.